afternoon. Okay, we are live at 7 o'clock, and there's no one in the chat room yet. We have one person, Monkey Mystical. Welcome. So today is a good day. We've moved away from the UI design stage, so we've built our 4-page site templates in our XD system, and we're going to move on to building our environment. So we're going to have a few tools that we need to use, and so a bunch of Webpack, which I'm not looking forward to touching, because the last time I started a Webpack project from scratch was about a year ago, when I had to redo the whole site for the company I work for. But all good. We'll use their documentation. It's amazing. So we can show you a bit of how I would approach a project that I've kind of forgotten or I haven't touched for a while. So that's good to see. We will also be setting up our Node.js system, and all the files and everything we need for the SaaS and various projects. Alright, so let's get started. First things first, let me switch to the main view. Alright, bring this down. Okay, so first thing you're going to need is to create a folder. So I've created a folder in my development structure called Uninspired for the site. Okay, second thing you're going to need is Open Terminal. Actually, before you open Terminal, go and make sure you have Node.js. Okay, so it's nodejs.org, and I'm using version 13.2. So let me download the latest one as well. So download it. Okay, so open that. You've loaded that up. Open and install Node. Yep. Run that. Accept. Is that where I normally install it? Yep. Just press next. Make sure this add to path is selected. Okay. Next. You can install Chocolatey if you want. I have not used it, but go and install it. Alright, so we've installed Node. We've almost installed Node. What else do we need? Yeah, most of the rest of the stuff that we're going to need are inside Webpack, inside Node. So once we've installed Node and made it work with our terminal. For terminal, I've been using this terminal here. It's Windows Terminal. You can find it in the store. So if you go to the store and just search for Windows Terminal. Yep. And this is the one I've been using. I tried the preview one before, and eventually they released the new one, so I'm on the new one. Windows Terminal allows you to do some good stuff. So for example, you can run PowerShell, you can run Git Git Bash command prompt. I've also had Ubuntu on there and a few Linux kernels on there. So it's a pretty sophisticated terminal, and it just allows you to connect it and have tabs of various stuff like that, which is good. It's nice to have it all in one place. Otherwise you'll have terminals everywhere and just alt tabbing into them is going to be hectic. So install that and you're ready to go. Another thing you're going to need is Git. So as I said, one of the things that I'm going to work on in this project is to make sure we have version control, which is Git, as well as a GitHub. You need to set up yourself a GitHub account, or there's the other one. I don't know what's it Git for. Yeah, there's GitLab. There's Bitbucket. So whichever one you have, it's not a big deal. So just get that set up. So what we'll do is let's head over to GitHub. Yeah, because I'm on there. And before we do that, make sure you have Git. So go to Git, search for Git, and this is it, git.scm.com. So make sure you've downloaded the latest one. I'm on Windows. It's on Mac and Linux as well. And just run it. I think I have the version, the same one. Git. Yeah. 2.26. No, it's 2.7. So I'll add that there as well. No, I'm done with that. So after we've installed this one here. So now Node is installed. So if we go to node/v, it should show, yeah, 14.5, which is good. And we'll see install Git as well. Yeah. Well, let's try this. I don't know what that is, but install. So I need to close the terminals from here. I need to close all terminals. Everything. Alright. Just make sure you don't have any terminals opened. Or if you have Git Bash already, but close all your terminals, close command prompts, everything, and then let it install, because it's going to install version on all of them. Alright, hello El Pinedo. You alright? Okay, so after we've installed Git, let me check which version I have now. So terminal, and just go to alright, so now we check and just go to Git version. Yep, that's the latest version I have, so I'm up to date with that, and we're up to date with Node. So if we switch now, what do we need? Let's go in and set up a, if you go to GitHub, I'm not sure which other one, but you're going to need to set up a repository. Let me call this Al Inspired. Yeah. Set me. Do I need this? Let me just add it in. I forget it. I don't have a readme. There you go. Create repository. Alright, so now I've created the account, the repository. You go to here, copy the link, and I would paste it here, but if you've just installed Git freshly, you won't be able to paste into this terminal. So what you do is, if you go to setting, if you go to the bash, so go to git bash first, right click and go to options, and go to keys, and then make sure that this is checked. Control plus shift plus letter shortcuts. I have it checked from previous works that I've done, but it just allows you to paste into the terminal. So then when you're in there, all you need to do is type git clone. Actually go to the location you need, so let's have a look where we are. I need to go to cd inspire. Actually, okay, so this is the place I'm working. So if I do git clone and then I paste, so control shift and V will paste if you've enabled that point, that check that I've told you about. If you don't have it, then you can't paste, so you're gonna have to type all that manually. So go in there and enable it, and you're good to go. And then it clones the site. So now if we check for it again, there we are. So cd inspired, and we're in there, and there we are. So now we are in the repository, which is great. We can work with that now. So if we type git status, and it shows us that we're in the master branch and we're working there. So that's the first thing we need to do. Second thing is, now we have this installed, we need to set up and install the various tools we're going to use for Node.js. So first, let's head over to npm.js. Alright, so now we are in npm. First thing we're going to need is, wow, I'm totally lost. We're going to need Node.js, Node Sass. So if you search for that, it'll show you. And this is the one we're going to need, Node Sass. Okay. And this will, normally Sass was something that was created for Ruby, and it was, you had to install Ruby to get it to work and compile Sass files. But some pretty good geniuses developed something called libsass, which is a library that utilizes C++, or C, I'm not sure which one, but it utilizes that to do the compilation of the Sass files, which allowed the Node Sass library to be built for Node.js that utilizes the libsass, and it allows us to use Node not in a Ruby environment, which is sweet, because installing Ruby for me was really difficult, and this just made life a lot easier. Alright, so quick thing to do, so just type npm Before we start, let's do this. Since in our actual environment we don't have anything, so if we do npm init package name Alan's site, yes, version 1, description, just press enter, yes, and yes. Alright, this basically just creates this file. It's a code. It's a package file, and this is the file that will basically be used to install everything. So all your scripts that you're going to use, every time you install a repository, it's going to be installed here. Every time you install a package, it's going to be installed here. It also differentiates which package, where you're going to install the packages. If you're going to install it on a save, or you're going to install it on a development only environment. So you have that, so you'll need to set this up first. So now that's set up, let's close this. We can start by installing Node. So first of all, npm install and then node sas. Yeah, I think I did a mistake. We have a look here. Yep, no mistake there. Also, what I normally tend to do is install Node globally as well. So npm install and then global. You don't have to, but it's just something I'm used to doing from a while back. Alright, so now that's installed. My preference to use is not npm, I use yarn. So let's install yarn. So npm install and then global yarn to make sure yarn is installed globally for us, and then run the same command but install it on the local system. And basically yarn is exactly like npm. Okay, the only difference is it's a lot faster, it's a more reliable, and it has secure dependency management. And I'm just reading from here. It allows for better structuring in the files. It does exactly the same job, but I've just used yarn a bit more, and it just seems to work more better. I think it was developed by the guys at Facebook as an alternative to npm, which is something pretty cool. Alright, so now we've installed yarn. We'll need to install Webpack. So if I go back here and then type Webpack, and this is Webpack, and Webpack on its own is great. It also has tons of plugins that we're going to be utilizing to do various tasks for us. Alright, so let's start with this. And since we're using yarn, we'll just end up doing yarn. Just make it bigger so you can see it, I think. Okay, so basically we end up doing yarn. It's yarn add Webpack, and then we need that in the development only. So Webpack is a development side project. So when you have this //dev, it basically let me just show you this. So remember the package file we had open earlier? Alright, so here's our dependencies. So node and sas, and if I run this, you'll see that we'll end up with a dev dependencies. Or I saved there. So you end up with the dev dependencies. Basically what that means is this: when you run it in your dev environment or in your build, it will install all the Webpack versions that you need and everything, or whatever you have in the dev environment, in dev dependencies. It will install them, build your site for you, and then discard them because they're not needed for the production. However, the dependency ones are the ones that are needed for your... I'm not sure why yarn is there. We might end up removing that one. We might also end up removing node sas from there. But we'll just see as we go along. I also need to check my other files because I'm not sure. Alright, so now we've installed Webpack. Let's go to the next thing that we're going to need to do all this work is Visual Studio. So I use Visual Studio. You can use any code editor you want. I've just been using this for a while. I think it's one of the best. So you install it, install Visual Studio, and then you once you've installed it, you run it. Now for here, I'm just going to go quickly and so yes. Alright, so what that was asking for here was basically we don't have a git ignore, and it recognized that the node modules shouldn't be published to the Git repository, so we ended up creating a git ignore, and what that does is just add node modules to it. It just ignores the files. And that's what it does. We'll tweak this better at a different stage. Alright, so now you've installed Visual Studio Code, I just want to go through quickly some extensions that I'm going to be using, and I would recommend you having as well. The first one, let me write these down somewhere. Yeah, first one is Prettier. It basically formats your code, so that's the first one that I would recommend. Second one is Peacock, and basically that allows you to change the color. So if I Peacock, I don't know how to run it. Anyway, what that does is once you open another browser, so if you open a different terminal or Visual Studio, or maybe 2 or 3 Visual Studios, it just creates the outline of the Visual Studio and changes it into the different colors. So it allows you to differentiate between this project, and that project. You won't need it now, but it's good to have. I would recommend installing SCSS everywhere. And what that does is it allows Visual Studio to read your SAS files and help out with intelligent search. So that's good. I also recommend To-Do List. Basically what that does is it allows us to add a comment with, in caps, to do, okay, and then a colon. And what that does is when we put the comment in there, there's a place in here in action comments, and it just shows us things that we are outstanding. So and there's also various other stuff that you can do with it. For instance, if there's a place that you need to fix, but you're in a hurry and you don't want to fix it now, you can fix it in about 10 minutes or maybe an hour or maybe the next day. It's not in a rush. So you put comment, then fix me, semicolon, and then you write it. There's a colon. Yeah, so then you write it, and what that does is it's highlighted in red for you to fix later on. There's also hack. Never used that before. There's also various other ones that they have that you can basically attach them and yeah, like if there's a bug, you found a bug somewhere in the code, it just creates a reference point. So by inserting these into your code, you basically create yourself a to-do list. So instead of using a different app to do all this, you can just do it in your code, and it saves it, and you can use it whenever you need. Another thing that we're going to be using is, I would recommend, is Visual Studio IntelliCode. And what this is basically is an AI code that will allow you to use intelligence while you're coding. So you basically press dot and it will complete the text for you. One thing that is nice is also VS Code icons, and it just changes the icons of your folder, your structure, into nice looking icons. Do I have anything else that's important? Yeah. Since we're using Git, I would recommend 100% to install Git Lens. This is Git Lens, and what that does is it brings the power of Git inside Visual Studio. So you can see who wrote what comment, what's changed from one version of control, one version to a different version. It just gives you that power inside the actual space. Another thing that you might want to install is Debugger for Microsoft Edge, or if you're using Chrome, there's Debugger for Chrome, or if you're using Firefox, there's Debugger for Firefox. I'm not sure if there's a debugger for Safari. Nope, no one decided. Well, no one created one. Alright, so that would be nice to install. I would also install auto rename tag, and basically if you create like for instance a div tag and you accidentally create it as diff instead of a div, you could just change the v and it will change the end tag as well. So it allows you to rename both sides of it, which is really important. I'm not sure why that isn't a feature within Visual Studio. Maybe in the future. There is the theme I'm currently using is Bear theme. I like it. I also like Dracula. I'll show you what. This is the Dracula one. I like Bear theme. It's slightly darker and just nicer. We're not going to be doing any Angular for now. Maybe on a different project we'll do it. Live server and live SAS compiler are useful for small projects you're working on, but since we're building everything in Webpack and we're building the whole functionality, we're not going to use this. But basically these two files allow you to create quick so for instance, you want to prototype something. You don't want to create a whole Webpack and everything for it, but you want to use SAS. So you install live server and install live SAS compiler, create the SAS files, and then run the live SAS. And what it does is it looks at all the SAS files and compiles them, and then it creates a CSS file. And in your HTML, you link to that CSS file, and then you run live server. What it does is it creates the whole site that you've created, and it puts it into a kind of a local server that lets you run it. And then if you change something and save it, it automatically refreshes it. So it just creates a quick and dirty environment for you to work with, which is really good. I think that's about it. The rest of them you won't need in this project. Maybe when we get to the point of coming to the integration with a content management system, one of them might be useful, but for now they're not. Alright, so these are what we're going to be using, and the next thing we're going to do is set up so if we go here, so this is our folder. You right click and open with code. So if you unselect everything and then just click somewhere and open with code, it will allow you to open the whole folder in code. in the Visual Studio Code. Alternately, the other way is through the terminal. So I'm in the folder right now. If I do code dot, then it will open the folder. But mine does some random stuff which I haven't figured out how to fix. But so we'll just do it here. So open the code. So now we're running this. Okay, we have everything we need. We need Webpack. So let's head over to Webpack and have a look at their documentation. So head over to webpack.js.org and quite simply just click on documentation and let's have a look. Do they know how we're getting started? Got it? Yep, getting started. Basic setup. Alright, so we're literally just going to follow most of this stuff. So we've done a folder. We already have a folder. We've already moved into the folder, which is here. Okay, we've already done the init of npm, and we have our package file. Now, that is not what we've only installed Webpack. So what we're going to need to do is head over back to the terminal and install. So yarn add and then Webpack CLI. Yeah. Now the Webpack CLI is basically the command line interface for Webpack, which allows us to execute codes or lines of code within the terminal. So, or for instance, Webpack start or something like that, and it just allows Webpack to work within the terminal. Now we need to create the following directory structure, files and their contents. So if we go back to Visual Studio Code, and quite simply we need a new file and call it index.html. Okay, we need a new folder and call that source. Yep, and then in that new folder we're going to need a new file called index.js. Alright, pretty simple. So we have that. Over here, if you hover over the top, there's new file, new folder, refresh, and collapse. Okay, you can also just go to new file here or use Control N. Okay, next thing we need to go to the index.js file that we have here. Double click it to open it, and we need to add what's this stuff? Okay, I think this is just for testing. I'm sure we're going to need it. Just add it. Basically what this is doing is it's creating a new div element, and within that div it's updating the HTML, and it's saying hello Webpack, and it's attaching this to the body of the document, which is the JavaScript, the actual web page. I think this is just for testing. I will get rid of that later on. So what we can do is this. If you go to the top and just put # or // and then fix me and then remove later as it's not needed. Okay, and save this. And if we go to action comments, you see, so under fix me, now we have remove later as it's not needed. That is the power of the to do extension that we've installed. We can change this to bug. Press this. Yep, and it makes it bug. have it as to do or fix me or whatever it is. Right now we need it as fix me because we're going to need to fix it later on. Okay. Now we go to the actual index.html file that we've created, and we need to just create some of this. But I think there's another better way of creating this. I think if we press this, if you put the exclamation mark once, 2, 3, I think, no, just once, and then press enter, and there you have Visual Studio creates the whole thing for us. Quick and simple. So update the documentation. Let's call this uninspired site for now. Okay. We also need to. Why is it loading load dash from there? Okay. Yeah, it's only using this for this purpose. So what we can do is just add fix me, remove this like this source. Yeah. Next thing is, since it's / is not going to work in HTML markup, so if we roll this out and then if you press Control / it automatically creates the required comments. Alright, and you could do that as multiple line as well, so you can just set the whole thing and bang, it's gone. Alright, finally we need to add this script, so actually if you do this and go to script source and source okay, we don't need anything else. Alright, this is ready now, as they've said here. Next thing we need to do is we need to update the package.json file. So if we head over here, that's the first I see of this, but we'll come to it later. So just under the description, if we do private, yeah, true, and I think he wants to remove this, so let's just comment this up. Oh, you can't comment in it. Okay. One thing that you can't do in JSON files is comment. So it always pisses me off, that one. Sometimes I just want to get rid of one item, but you can't. Alright. So now they're both installed. Everything's, we've set this to private. What does the private do? So basically this prevents the code being published without specifically building it. Okay. Okay, so now we need to create the area for the bundles. So this is for our source. Now we need a new folder called dist, and that's our distribution folder there. And it's asking us to move that into this. Why would it do that? such a long time for me. Alright, let's do Alright, let's try this. So, follow along. Not sure why, but move this to our dist. Yep. And then it wants to install npm. So back to here. So npm, actually yarn, since we're using yarn, add load dash. Yep. Alright. And once that adds, if we go back to our source here, we can get rid of this. No, not get rid of this. We can basically come to the top and go to import. Okay, so import load dash, and just have this here. Okay. Okay, get rid of this. Now it's loaded. Alright, and then if we go back to our index file, we can just get rid of this. Yep, that's it. And basically have a main.js, get rid of the source. So what's going to happen now is that, so now we're not going directly to an index file. So our software isn't going to here. The index page isn't looking for the JavaScript here. It's going to look for it within its own distribution. So what's Webpack going to do is going to build all the JavaScript files, and then it's going to put them in that distribution folder. Okay. And I need to go back to our index file. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, so next thing we need to do, now it's saying this. I don't think this is going to work. Will it create a main file? Yeah, it did. That's weird. Alright. So that created this here, and it loaded everything that we need into it. The question is, did it load? No, I don't think it loaded up this. So it's loaded load dash. So this is the load dash system, but it hasn't loaded up that custom code that we have. So it didn't add this into it. So if we test this and go to here, dist, and just double click on the index file, oh, added it. Okay, fair enough. My bad. Where is it? There it is, right at the end. Okay, so that was pretty easy. I must have changed it. I had more code to write when I was doing it. Yeah, so here's the modules, and this is where we start doing the configuration of the system. And so now this is pretty simple. We have this stuff. It builds, it writes based on one file. Obviously we're going to be using Sass, and we're going to need Webpack to process the SAS files and then export them into CSS. So basically you run one command and everything gets built around that. It builds the CSS files, it builds the JavaScript files that you're going to use if you're using ES 2015 and plus. Well, actually ES 2015 and plus. It will use Babel to compile them into a ES5 code, so then it works with some browsers. So it will do that all in Webpack, and there's a lot more you can do with Webpack. You can even do substitutions. So if you want to build a HTML file and substitute some of the words, you can do that. I've done that with some of the files previously, but we're going to do configuration file. So let's get the configuration file started. So in the same folder you have here, just create a new file called webpack.config.js, and pretty simple. Just create a constant path equals require and then we have a module. Okay. One software I didn't talk about, and I'm not being paid for this. This is just something I've picked up over the course of a few weeks now. As I was playing around with Python, I came across a software called Kite. And is it running now? Yeah, it's running. Basically, Kite is Kite is a, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Let me just see what they've written as Kite. What Kite is. Yeah, Kite is an AI coding assistant for Python and JavaScript. Alright, so basically I've set up an account with Kite. It's free, I think, mostly. I am using the free one. So it's free for the basics, basically. I haven't touched the Pro, and I don't use the Teams one. Since at work, I'm literally the only one writing some of this stuff. I'm using this one, this free one. And they have for Python, and they have it for JavaScript, which is pretty cool. And it's basically an AI assisted coding. So as you type in code, it learns how you type, what you're typing, what you're doing, and it starts to give you recommendations of it, which is quite nice. Sometimes I forget. Oh God, a lot of times I forget certain things, and it just helps me out with it. To get it installed, you download it, install it from here. Set up an account first, download it, install it. It will run in the background here. And then you have an extension called Kite. Here, Kite autocomplete for Python and JavaScript. Just run that, install that, and as you can see, if I go back to here and rub this up, if I put module dot export, is it module? No, crap. Yeah. So now can you see it here? This is a Kite recommended one, and they're both recommending two different types. So we're currently using the straightforward one. So as soon as you do that, it will finish the things. You might be able to, yeah. So now it knows I'm using this, so it will just request it again. And you could just run it, and it does various other stuff. So again, I'm not being paid for this. It's just something I've used, and I just thought it was pretty cool. So if Kite want to pay me, I'm more than happy. Alright, so let's move on. first thing is module exports. We need to have an entry point, so entry, and we need to load up the source file. Let me just see now. This is where the power of Kite comes across. It knows certain JS files are available. So what it's done is went and picked up the 2 JS files that are available in my project right now. And I can use one of them as an entry point. So I'm looking for this one here. That's it. Okay. And let's set up an output as well. And again, don't Kite. And we need an output with a path. So yeah. And just before here, let's have a file name. File name. Yeah, and we're going to call it, let's call it bundle.js. Yeah, let's call it bundle.js just so that we know that there was a main.js. Let's have a bundle.js. Forget what they've said. Just so we can see the difference. And here we're just going to have path.resolve, and then here. And so we're going to resolve the directory, and inside the directory we have the dist folder we have. And that's it, we don't need anything else. Alright. Don't add the comma at the end. Not important, but you need a comma here. So have a comma here, no commas at the end. And again, no commas here as well. When you close off the bracket, don't add a comma unless you're adding something else. It's just best practice. I know some of the stuff I've used over the years have thrown errors. So just to be safe, when you close off a bracket, if you don't have another section to it, or if you don't have something to complete with it, don't add a comma. And here we have a semicolon to close off. Alright, so save this. And now we can go back to here and then load, just like before, but this time we're going to load a config file. Config, and the file is the webpack.config.js. Alright, now basically this is the webpack CLI, and we're telling it to load up the config file instead of doing whatever you want to do. So it has our own configuration to it. And if we go back to here in the dist folder, now we have a bundle file, and that was created using that command and that file that we just created, which is great. I don't need the main anymore. I can delete this. Alright, what else do we need? Yeah, the next part is running that command is a bit tedious. So we go to our package JSON, and under scripts create a new one called build. Yeah, and let's call it build. Yeah, just call it build. I don't like what it's going to do, but and in here, if we go back to our script, press up, and we're just going to basically tell it to run webpack, and then we're going to run a config webpack.config.js. Alright, and I don't want this. We don't have a test at the moment, so we don't need that. Okay, let me delete this bundle file just so we can see if our command works. So now we can just run. So yarn run, actually yarn build, and that's it. It will run that command, and we can have it. So we can have the other one. So maybe we have. So maybe we have a build, and we have build dev, and we have build prod, and the production one does something else. And then you just run the command, and you have say you set the environment to prod or something like that, and basically the script allows you to do various things, and that's really useful. All right. If you're using npm and not yarn, you can just run npm run and then build. Okay. And it does the same thing. What else? Okay, that's more or less. So we've now set up the basics of. I've almost finished. So we've set up. So we've installed we've set up our environment in this episode. Okay, and we've set up the basics of Webpack. Took a while for me to get into it. We've set up Node.js, and we've set up our Visual Studio Code editor with the extensions that we require. I will try and leave a comment, but right now I don't have a blog, and we're building this blog, and it's going to be used as one of my sites to do blogs in. The Alan Spide site will be used for other people to add their own blogs, so that's going to be available for that as well. But it's just something, everything you see that's been created in this series is going to be open sourced. Okay, first things first. Before we close off, since we've done this, we can save this. Let's go back to our GitHub. Yeah. And go back to this site. Add file. Actually, let me go to another. I just want to see another one of my projects. Git ignore. So, basic first, go to your git ignore file and just add some comments. So this one here, and this is the node modules. And then you add the node modules, and what we don't need, okay, what we don't need for this project is the dist folder. We don't need anything in there. Actually, we do at the moment because the stupid system decided to, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna need that. Alright, we'll leave that for now. I just realized that it's put the index file in there. Okay, that's fine. Might be something to work on differently. Alright, so we'll look at that differently. Normally I put the index file somewhere else, and then I have the dist folder is where everything gets built in and put into it. And with Angular it works differently because it has its own folder, and it's a dist folder, and basically it builds everything and throws it in there, including the index files. In fact, there's only one index file for Angular. Everything else will run JavaScript. A similar setup they want to do here, but we're not going to be doing that. So, so what we're going to do is, I'm going to show you the basis of a Git commit. And basically, now we've got to a point where, so the point we have right now is we've built our index file. Okay. You know what? Take this out. I feel much better if I take this out. And then just have. Alright. So now we don't need to include the dist file. So if we go back to git ignore, and we just basically add the dist folder. You can also here, if you so go git ignore, and then ignore folder, and we can see what the best command is for this. Not every, you're not as a developer, you're not kind of, how do I say it? You're not required to memorize everything. There's so much stuff to be memorized that it just gets overwhelming after a while. So, I mean, you do see top developers, I mean, even lead developers, sometimes just Googling, oh, what's the HTML tag, or something like that. It's just because initially you set things up and then you leave them. With Webpack, once you've set it up, you don't need to touch it anymore. That's why I said to you, I haven't touched it for a year. I set it up a year ago, and I haven't touched it ever since. It does everything I need to do, and I don't require anything else. I also set up the development, the automated CI/CD system to read the Webpack file and build everything that it needs. So I've literally have not touched Webpack for about a year now. So as you can see, that most of the stuff I'm doing, I'm just reading the documentation, and that's a lot of what we're going to be doing, and a lot of what a developer is required to. As a developer, your main job is to read the documentation and then build what you need. But it's your knowledge of understanding this documentation and understanding how things work and how things are built, and that's the power that you have at your hands. Also, Google and searching for things. If you get stuck, don't be shy to just throw it in there and Google it. And if we are judged by our Google searches, then I for one will have a really bad judgment. I've searched for really terrible things. If they read it, they'll think I'm just really stupid. Alright, so we want to get rid of a file, and we want to add it into our git ignore. And basically, straight up, we basically want to get it to ignore the whole. So if I have this and save this file, and if I go to here and type git status, and can you see in the list that the dist is not added? But if I comment this out and save, and then run git status as well, and you can see the dist folder here. So by putting the, can I do this? Will this work? Yeah, you could do that as well. Just have the dist. Another thing you can do is, save that. And what that does is, if it's a capital D or a small d, it really doesn't matter. It will know to ignore this file. Not that it's going to change for us, but it's just an extra precaution in case someone else does it. But now we're ignoring this. We also don't need to attach. We don't need the package lock. So package. We don't need to include that. And we don't need the yarn lock folder. Why we don't need these? Because when someone takes over this distribution, the first thing they're going to do is do an npm install or a yarn install, and what that does is it's going to build its own package lock or its own yarn lock with the information that is located in the package.json. So including it in the repository is technically useless and not required. So best thing to do is to take it out. The distribution folder, when someone builds the package, when you do a build, so when you run the npm run build or npm yarn build, we're building the distribution folder and its structure as well. So we don't need that as well included. It's just no point. That's being built afterwards. And it just, with removing things, using the git ignore to remove files you're not going to need, or files that are built, does two things for you. One of them is it reduces the actual git repository, the size of it. The other thing it does is, if it's being used for a CDCI system, which is the continuous development or the continuous integration systems, these will run their own node commands So the one I built for the company I work for, basically I used Azure DevOps, and it uses npm during the build stage to run the Webpack system. So it downloads all the npm packages it requires. That's why we don't include the node modules, because that is bloody huge. That is like installing a game. Okay, so it does that, and then it also installs. It runs all the commands, does everything you need, and then it discards the extra files, and copies all the files that is required into the actual program, and then it moves along and creates into the pipeline. So having these files created causes one of two problems for us while we're doing this pipeline. One, if they already exist, then you have to you have to check if they exist, and then run an execution to install the latest one, which kind of is pointless. The other one is sometimes the systems will just see a file that's already there, and it will just ignore it and start do something else. The other thing is what I've done with the JS files and the CSS files, mostly the JS files, actually the JS and the CSS files, the final bundles, is I have a unique identifier on the folder. And basically what happens is this: it's a cache breaker. So after I've done all my work and everything, we launch and we push the project to production. What it does is it replaces the JS file with a new file, and so in the process it deletes all the old files, and then it includes a new file. That new file has a unique identifier, so it could be bundle x 202065.js, okay, and the next one is x 202066 or something like that. And what that does is, when it's changed the file, when it breaks the cache, so it no longer looks for a cache of the JS file. So when someone else opens the browser, it won't load up his version of or his locally cached version of CSS or the JavaScript for my program. And at the same time, our CDN will recognize that there's a file that's changed, and it will remove the file and add the new file in automatically. Now what that particularly does is this: when you make a CSS change, you need the new CSS files. And if one of your users, and we've had a case like this, if one of your users or one of the people visitors is using the old CSS file with no cache breaker, then all the stuff you've done for the new fixes and God knows what you've changed won't be seen on his file, because technically he's loading up his version of CSS that's been cached by his browser, and all that hard work you've spent is not going to be loaded up. And that's why we have cache breakers. Cache breakers basically tell the browser that, no, don't use any file, use this new file. This is the latest file, it has different code, different number, and it just basically, it forces the browsers to just download the new file. And that way you have a, how do you say it? You have a, you can, I don't know how to say it. You could basically, you have more control over what CSS and JS files a user's using. Okay, so that's the use for it. So now we've done that. So we've ignored these files we don't need. So, and this is how we add them to the Git. So you run git status in the folder, and it shows you the files that are untracked and they're ready to go. Okay, now check them. So we need the git ignore file, and we need the index.html, we need the package JSON, and we need the source and everything inside it as well, so that will include that, and we need the webpack file. Is there anything else in there? No. Why? Because the readme file .empty, as can be seen here, there's no u. Now, since we installed the git lens, the u's are basically telling us what's tracked, what's untracked, what's new from the from our GitHub, our repository. So if I go back to this, So if I go back to this, we can see that an hour ago we added the readme file. Nothing has been changed. It still says Unspired. It still says Unspired. But we can do, we can add here to build the program, the site. Please run the following. Okay. And then we have 1, 2, 3. And we have this. So npm install and then npm run build. Okay. And that's it. These are the two commands we're going to need. And if I save this, now it says M. Why? Because if we go back here and run git status, now it's not an untracked file. Untracked files mean the file does not exist in the repository. It's a new file. A modified file is a file that you've changed that's different from what's in the repository. So we're happy with these two changes, and we're good to push it. So what we do is you git add, yeah, and then you just we want all of them. You can either go by one, or you just go all of them. So click add and then just all. Alternatively, if you don't like command line, go back to here, click on this git length, and basically it shows you all this stuff. So we don't need this, we don't need this. This will show you what's changed now. A few seconds ago, if you click here, and it shows you this is what the original file was. This is what's been changed. Okay, you can see the file history from here, and these are the 6 files. Okay. Damn, this is harder than I thought. Okay, so you click on the file and then click here, stage. You can select multiple files. And you just stage all. Yep. No, that's stash. Don't click that. Stash basically throws when you stash something, it's like putting it aside for another day, and it won't actually send it to the repository. So we want to add it. So you can either click add here, and it will add it to, where is that? Yeah, can you see here? It says added. Now it's an A. Added. Yep. Or the way I like to do it is just do that. Come back here, and they're all added. Okay. And then if we go to build status, they are now all added. The next thing we do is we do a git commit. Okay. Now you can either do it through. Can I do it through here? I've not actually used it before. I normally just use command line. It's harder than I thought. It has its uses, but this is much easier. Forget going to git lens here. Just go to source control, which is built into Visual Studio Code, and then all you do is this. You have the files in here. You can stage them all, but we want to add a message. So here we are. So messages, initial build site setup and webpack So basically this is the initial site setup and the basic webpack and the basic webpack setup. We click tick, and what it's going to do is it's going to remove it from here because it's no longer changed. If we go back to here and go to git stats status, it's not there. Why? Because now the changes have been committed and are ready to be pushed to the over here. So just because something's committed doesn't mean that it's in the repository. So if I refresh this, it's not here. So if you just come to here, go to git push, what it will do will just push everything to the remote cloud, which is the repository. You come to here, refresh this. Actually, if I go back to here, now you can see that all the files that we built are here. At the same time, if you go back to here and do git status, it literally just shows and it says your branch is up to date with the origin master. Alright, now one thing that we've been doing, which is not a good practice, is we're working directly in the master branch. Now that's all good for us here because we're doing the initial build, but you'd want to later on use a specific branch of the master branch. And what we're going to do next on Thursday is continue to work on this on the next stages of this. There are a few more webpack stuff that we need to do, and then we're going to work if we finish it early, then we'll continue working on the actual setup of the site. If we haven't built it, then we'll wait until Monday to finish the rest of the site. But what we'll do is we won't use the master branch ever again. So I'll show you exactly how to create new branches and to push your changes to the branches, and then to merge it with the master branch. And we'll do two ways of doing this. Actually, we'll just do one way. We'll do it through the command prompt because I've already shown you through there, but we'll do the merges through GitHub. One, I have not used the merge in GitHub before, which will be pretty useful for me to have a play around with. The other thing is, it will show you how it's more visual and shows you how it works. I don't think we're going to have any merge conflicts because there's no one else working on this project. But maybe as we go along, we'll have contributors working on this project with us, and we can see the different merge conflicts and stuff like that. Alright, but for now it's going to be, we're not going to touch any more of these of the master branch. So from next lesson, or from Thursday onwards, we're going to be using new branches for different things. Okay, and alright, so then that means I am closing for the rest of the day, and I will see you guys on Thursday, where we will talk about the next stage of the Webpack configuration and setting up SAS and all the other stuff that we require to start building our site. So from me, see you later, and I will see you on Thursday, 7 o'clock sharp. Bang out. See ya.